Yo, it's Ike here. I'm just doing a video about team building for Pokemon Sword and Shield. The game's been out for a few months now, and I think the meta's starting to develop a bit. And I've just kind of was originally going to make this into like a big post on the forums and stuff, but instead I decided it's good idea to make a video about it instead. Just on my screen here is just my notes that I've been writing for it, and we can just go over like some of the most important things for team building. I'll try and give some examples as well in my team builder. So what you need to know first is what general styles of teams are there, and I'm going to put this, what I'm saying here is very like it's very like vague styles, so like these are not like the only styles and they're not overarching, but it's good to know like your basic like archetypes. The first one I've just called it good stuffs. Basically, good stuffs is the idea that you have like basically just strong Pokemon, and I've given some examples down here. Dragapult, Excadrill, Mimikyu, Rotom forms. Mainly we'll talk about Wash, Heat, and to a lesser extent Cut. Snorlax, Tyranitar, Hydreigon, Corviknight, Togekiss, and Gyarados. Entire teams just based off Pokemon that can deal a lot of damage and also take a lot of damage. Are very flexible. All of them, or almost all of them, can Dynamax. And the key is having offensive and defensive utility, and lots of win conditions and lots of Dynamaxes, which makes it hard for your opponent to really like prepare very well for these teams. So like this is an example of a good stuffs team. It has like that could be weakness policy Tyranitar, but like it's just full of like Pokemon that are strong, that all have the potential to set up the sweep, or have like weird sets. Like you might assume on this team, for example, this could be like, look at this weird Rotom set at the bottom. It's Hydrotomp, Sub, Dark Pulse, Nasty Plot, a Rotom without an electric move. So like you can do a lot of things with these Pokemon just because they're so powerful and versatile. So we got like that could be weakness policy Tyranitar or weakness policy Dragapult. It's not. It is like Keyberry, Dragon Dance, Will-O-Wisp, Tompass. Like people don't expect this sort of thing. And nice EVs outspeeding 179. Might be Cinderace. Or base 110s. Anyways, yeah, but just to give you an idea of like a proper good stuffs team, there's other ones out there. This one 12th place, another one with like Tyranitar, Excadrill, Dragapult, Hydreigon, Corviknight, and Mimikyu, all top Pokemon that have a wide array of attributes. Second thing is Hyper Offense. This is not an example of a Hyper Offense, though it has Trick Room on it. If it was Mimikyu paired with Rhyperior, then that would be like an example of at least a semi-Trick Room team. I used a semi-Trick Room here, although this is not a Hyper Offense. It has a Hyper Offense element to it in the Mimikyu plus has a Hyper Offense mode with Mimikyu plus Conkeldurr, and that you try and use one of these other Pokemon to bait out opposing Dynamax or to disrupt the enemy team. I probably could have built this slightly better, with maybe having Aegislash in one of these slots would be really good, like just to provoke other players into Dynamaxing. But yeah, that's like other ones. The obvious ones like dual screens, Grimsnarl, plus like a max airstream sweeper, or Dragon Dance like Haxorus or Gyarados. So like this hasn't. I haven't actually even EV'd these, but this has an element of. I don't think I even made this team because I wasn't very happy with it. But this has an element of hyper offense with the dual screens plus hard setup with Gyarados and Mimikyu. It also has some other things like the Yawn Spam from Hippo. It's another example of like stuff you typically see in hyper offense where you have a dedicated or multiple dedicated leads to just so you can set up with your few Dynamax Pokemon, and you generally have like specific Dynamaxes. Like this team has two specific Dynamaxes in Gyarados and Mimikyu. Other Pokemon can Dynamax, but like really, mostly you're Dynamaxing Gyarados or Mimikyu. You're not Dynamaxing Grimmsnarl or Hippo, for example, and that's where it differs from a good stuff team where you can Dynamax pretty much anything. But yeah, I mean, every team should have at least 3 Dynamaxes, i.e. Pokemon that can win the game through clicking Dynamax. But it's, Hyper Fence, they're generally like tending towards like very hard setup Pokemon like Togekiss, Gyarados, Excadrill, Seismitoad, Charizard. This is another one like Yawn Spam into, and it can be Hippo Yawn Spam. It can even be Torkoal in the case of Charizard. Yawn Spam into it in the sweeper, and then you generally have a Mimikyu as well, because Mimikyu's a great 1v1 Pokemon. So yeah, Sands would be Excadrill. Rain, this is more common, becoming more and more common with Seismitoad, Life Force Seismitoad setting up Rain for itself. They have Bulky Offense. Bulky Offense is kind of like in between. It's like in between Good Stuffs and like Hyper Offense. Basically, you have Pokemon that are like are properly fat that can pivot into stuff. So maybe like a team with like Toxapex on, or Type Null is an example. So Type Null slow pivoting into Durant. This, I mean, I guess this can go with Good Stuffs, but you can also use Pokemon that are not like Type Null is not a good Dynamaxer. It's more these sorts of teams have more sort of support. So yeah, maybe something like this with Umbreon. Umbreon is not a Good Stuffs mon. Nor is Darmanitan, but they can, or Gastrodon, neither of these are, but they can have certain utility and pivot into certain moves that you wouldn't really find in a Good Stuff team. And then Stall. Stall's like the last major style, and whether you think it's time stall or just like doing shit in general, and there's like the key things. Lots of Pokemon recover or boost in the case of Corviknight. Multiple ones with Protect. Protect just, they need Protect to waste Dynamax turns basically. And generally each of these tiers have a few wild cards that like make it have like unique feature. Like this has like Protect counter Quagsire or Sash Corviknight, and like this Berry Alcremie, and this like this weird Milotic spread, which is becoming more common. Rests on Ferrothorn for stalling even more. So yeah, this like you have stuff like Baneful Bonker plus Black Sludge, Toxapex plus Leech Seed, and all of this makes like turns go very long in cartridge play. probably a better example of a stall than that is this. It doesn't look like a stall. It has the 3 like stall Pokemon, which is the Toxapex, the Sylveon to an extent. Just the Wish protects, waste time, and then the Quagsire, but mainly Toxapex and Quagsire, and it has just interesting wild cards that go along with it that do well in certain matchups. You have the Dragapult, General Darmanitan for like just Darmanitan's very good against good stuffs. This sort of team, like stuff with Dragapult, Excadrill, Mimikyu, Rotom, Darm does very well against a lot of these teams because it's just fast and it hits these Pokemon hard. But at the same time, it does struggle from not being able to switch into stuff and being like pretty one-dimensional. But yeah, this is like a sort of like Stolia team. Generally on touch base, like this one doesn't have as much protect on it. Only has 2 protect users, but you could see instead of toxic spikes with attack on this Toxapex set, you often see Baneful Bunker. But yeah, I'm going to talk a bit about, now I've talked about like kind of styles, I'll talk about general things. First thing you want to do whenever you're making a team, and this is general thing, is have a win condition. Like examples of win conditions: max airstream mons. I'm always clicking Discord by accident. I might close that so I can click on this. Max airstream mons, Togekiss, Gyarados are your main 2 go-to ones. You can use Charizard if you wanted, or I'll look at the tier list actually. So whilst I'm doing this, like Charizard, what's another max airstream one that's like any good? Yes, like not really Dracozolt. You also kind of want to have setup, so like Charizard has the Sun to give it an extra special attack boost, or Dragapult is another one. Trick Room, your main ones you're looking for, Snorlax, Aegislash is good on Trick Room teams. It's not really a Trick Room mon. Mimikyu, the key setup at Trick Room, and Rhyperior, and did I mention Conqueror already? I probably did. These are like that's Trick Room win condition. Weakness policy, you're mainly looking at Dragapult, Togekiss, Tyranitar are the main, and Rhyperior are the main like 4, and then you can put weakness policy on quite a few mons. You can put it on Corviknight or Rotom forms, or put it even on, you know, like Aegislash is a rising one. Then Timer Stall, Ferrothorn with leftovers, Leech Protect, Toxapex with Black Sludge. The key with Timer Stall is you want to have Pokemon that have recovery as well, because recovery wastes more time on the cartridge. So if you're Baneful Bunker and you poison your opponent, then they get poisoned, then you have your Black Sludge recovery and all of that. It all kind of adds up. Other example, Quagsire is another one. Corsola. So yeah, I've given some examples here. Powerful Scarfers, setup moves I should talk about first. National Hydreigon, National Rotom, SD, Excadrill, and you could also talk about weather here with Excadrill and Seismitoad. Yeah, I talk about like a load of different win conditions here, and one of the keys is they need to be different from each other. You can't win this with one. You can't win any BSS game with one win condition, because basically what's going to happen is that the opposing team, like, you're going to run into matchups where win condition doesn't like work very well. Like, let's say I have Mimikyu as my win condition. Mimikyu, great man, but what if they have Corviknight, Snorlax, I don't know what else, like Toxapex, Quagsire, with like, and they have Mold Breaker extra, like, yeah, Mimikyu's almost useless in that. Well, not almost useless. Mimikyu's always useful, but it's probably not going to win in that sort of matchup. So you need to have different ones, and you can't just have, say, like, let's say I have an SD Mimikyu and SD Extra as my 2 win conditions, but they both get walled by the same thing, which is Corviknight, Iron Defense Corviknight or Bulk Corviknight. I've always, you're probably going to lose to Corviknight. So you need to have something different, like Extra and Togekiss, for example, or Mimikyu and Togekiss. They hit on different sides of the spectrum. Whereas like Extra, like Mold Breaker Drill, can break through stuff like Rotom forms, which typically check Togekiss. Just to give like a random example of something like that, you need to like have different win conditions, and try and avoid having overlapping checks to your win conditions. That's offensively. Generally, you want to pick a few to start off with. I'll talk about the items, and generally, it's if you're struggling, like trying to use some of these items up. Okay, in terms of like making your team solid, like once you've figured out, okay, how am I going to win the game? You want to have some support for your thing, depending on the style you're using. As I talked about the different styles, like Hyper Offense, you kind of want a dual screener. Grimmsnarl is a good one. You can use Dragapult even as a dual screener, might work in some days. Trick Room, you want Mimikyu. You know, you want stuff like Hippo. Hyper Offense in good stuff. You just want top tier Pokemon, and you want to have these checks that I talk about down here. Bulky Offense, you want pivots like Rotom, like type Null. Are 2 good examples of great pivots. Maybe you can use Wish, in, you know, from Sylveon or Umbreon to get in your Pokemon safely. Stall, yeah, you want fat shit. So yeah, have checked for meta threats. The most important ones are the top 3, and you want 2 checks for each of them, at least 2 checks. You know, Mimikyu, Extra, and Dragapult, they're gonna break past a lot of the checks anyways, but you want at least 2 checks, and it's because they're so common. You're gonna see these, like, if you're not seeing one of these 3 in your game, then you're probably like 1,000 on the ladder or something. So like, I'll give you and most top teams, if not all top teams, follow this. Like, let's have a look at this Good Stuff's team. So, how does it like check like Mimikyu? Like, it has Corviknight, Bulk Up Corviknight, Will-O-Wisp. Has its drill. It has a drill. Has Will-O-Wisp on Dragapult. This is like a more weird team, I guess, but like it still has the checks. Like, it has Dark Pulse on Rotom Wash. Scarf Hydreigon can revenge kill Dragapult. It has its own Will-O-Wisp on its Dragapult, like with some stupidly bulky spread. It has a T-Tar. At least checking it in team preview with Rock Tomb and Taunt and stuff. have a look at another team as well. Have a look at this team. Or does I just look at this team? I feel like this is the same sort of team. We'll look at something slightly different. This team here, the 4th ranked team. So like 2 checks for Mimikyu, Extra Dragapult. Okay. And they don't have to all be hard checks. They can be soft checks as well. Cinderace, pretty good into Excadrill. Then you have Earthquake from Diggersby. You have even Drain Punch from Mimikyu. Then for like Mimikyu, opposing Mimikyu, you have Mimikyu itself. You have Shell Smash Cloyster. You have Flash Cannon on Hydreigon, and Weakness Policy with Max Airstream on Dragapult to bait Mimikyu in. For opposing Dragapult, same thing. You have this Dragapult spread to bait them in. You have a Hydreigon to an extent. You know, doesn't like switching in Hydreigon. You have Mimikyu as a check. You have Ice Shard on Cloyster. But yeah, you want to have a certain amount of matchup flexibility because team preview is so important. So, like, if this team only had one way of dealing with Mimikyu, like some bad teams, and let's see if I can find. Actually, I don't want to claim like any of them are bad, because that'll just get me in trouble. But like some bad teams, they only have one check to like Mimikyu or something, and then what if you can't bring that check in the matchup, but you're likely to see Mimikyu like 40% of the time? Then that's just fucking shit, isn't it? Generally, you want a Togekiss hard check on every team. Most common ones are Excadrill, Rotom Heat. So like this one has Excadrill on it, Sandrush Drill. It can Dynamax that. It has Mimikyu can also like serve as a check. Originally, I think this team is in season 1. Yawn, Spadef, Hippo. Before they started running more Lumberries, as a check. You have like even Phantom Force Dragapult can waste Dynamax turns. With Sash, will waste all 3 Dynamax turns of Togekiss. And you know, another example like Togekiss check has this has Fast Haze Milotic. This is a store with 1 speed point more than Togekiss, and it has a soft check in Calm Mind Alcremie. Another example of Togekiss check, it has Sub Flash Cannon Hydreigon to bait in Togekiss. Has Mimikyu. It has Sash Cloyster and Thunder Punch on Diggersby. You know, these Pokemon can live maybe 1 hit or something and do Cloyster. Okay, second thing, a special attacker with electrical fire coverage for Corviknight, and you probably want more than 1. You can have 1 and still be okay if you have a physical fire electric type. So if you have like I don't know, Arcanine is an example of a physical fire type. It's bad, but like Dracozolt is a good fire type. Like this team here, like for example, has 2 Togekiss checks in Rotom Heat and Dracozolt. But AV Dracozolt, that is. But it has the special attackers with fire coverage, with electric fire coverage with Rotom Heat and Alcremie, and then you know, it even has like similar other things for Corviknight, because Corviknight can be a pain to Trick Room. Then like let's look at this. It has Scarf Darmanitan with Flare Blitz, but like even like this store has like multiple. Although it doesn't have special ones, it has like Snorlax with Thunder Punch, and it has Will-O-Wisp Hex, a very strong special attacker in Dragapult. It has like lots of Yawn spam. So like the rules that I'm saying here, this rule doesn't apply as much to Stall, because Stall can deal with Corviknight in different ways. This one has Rotom Wash, strong Nasty Plot with special attack investment to get past Corviknight, or Flash Cannon with Hydreigon. So there's always gonna be like, they always need a way to deal with Corviknight. You can't just have like 6 physical attackers, because you'll just lose to Corviknight most of the time. Then you want the status blocker. Basically, this is to stop people yawn spamming you. The main yawners, Hippowdon, Sylveon, Umbreon, Quagsire, a big one. I'm probably forgetting like 1 or 2, but those are the main ones, I think. Yeah, you're not gonna want to be like wasting your time with those, because they'll just shuffle around your team, and eventually someone will fall asleep if you don't have a check for it. This, for example, has Taunt on Cinderace. It has Thunder Punch. You can actually use Electric Terrain to stop things falling asleep. It also has Lumberry. Lumberry is something that's rising up more. Okay, give another example. This team has Alcremie with Sweet Veil to avoid sleep. Like a lot of toxic immunities on this team with Corviknight and Toxapex, and then generally like it has ways to deal with Bird, like the Marvel Scale on Milotic makes things more less likely to burn. Although maybe competitive would be good on this Milotic. Another example, this team, what does it have for it? This team actually doesn't have too much for Yawn Spam, but it has ways to stop certain yawners. One of them, it has Gyarados, is pretty good in lead versus yawners. And it has extra drill for generally beating what's it called, Sylveon, and it has like random like belly drum stuff going on, so, and it can flinch things with Togekiss if need be. So yeah, the main things like status blocking it by especially sleep is pretty important. Then you want Volt Switch immunities. This team has Quag, the 20th ranked team. This team has Extra Hippo. Mostly it's ground type, so you don't want to be Volt Switched on with Rotom. By Rotom, the momentum will kill you pretty quick. So, like, this team has Quag. This team has Drill and Gastro, has Drill. This team has Drill and Hippo. Like, pretty common, you know, things. Like, very rarely do you have a team without a Volt Switch immunity. Yeah, this team, like my team, has Volt Absorb Dracozolt, the one I made recently. Like, some of these aren't serious, so don't take them for granted. And then lastly, you want a flying type. Difference between having a flying type and having a Rotom form, you want something that's immune to Mold Breaker, Exodus, Earthquake. So like, this team has Gyarados and Togekiss. This team has it doesn't have it doesn't actually have a flying type, but it you can like break these rules to an extent. Like this team is solidish against board breaker drill because it has like multiple like checks, and everything is like it has like random text like Drain Punch on Mimikyu and stuff like that. What was I talking about? Flying type. Generally, like on story ability, you see Corviknight a lot, or in general, Corviknight is a common one to see. So these all have Corviknight in. This has Corviknight in. This doesn't have it, but it's like again, it has like something that works in the same way, which in this case is Quagsire, and just trading. It aims to trade with extra drill, and SD drill will lose to Darm, whilst non-SD drill will, like Scarf drill, will like lose to Snorlax and to Quagsire. Rotom Fan, another example of a flying type. So those are like when you become like super good at the game and at team building, you can break some of these rules to an extent, but have like different worked out solutions for them. But yeah, those are the main like principles. Lastly, talk a bit about items. The most important items in the meta currently: Focus Sash. This isn't in no order. This is just a general like top 7 items. Focus Sash, Choice Scarf, Life Orb, Weakness Policy, Leftovers, Assault Vest, and Lumberry. Arguably Leftovers is the least important of all of these. But yeah, you always want a Scarf on your team. You always want to use Sash. You probably want to use Life Orb because on any offensive mon is great. Weakness Policy is strong on certain very strong on certain Pokemon. Leftovers very good also on certain Pokemon, especially substitute users and stall builds. AV good for checking, making mons being able to better check Togekiss, and Lumberry on setup sweepers when they're trying to like as said up here, status blocker. You can bait in people and click max that setup and Dynamax. Other items that you can have is like other choice items, choice specs, choice band, or they're both usable. Bulky Berry and Citrus are, those are like the next go-to, and then like past that, like your turn, like Expert Pearl, Sharp Beak, Mystic Water, all of those, like Miracle Seed, I don't know. And then you have the Pokemon specific items: Flame Orb on Conk, Black Sludge on Toxapex, Firelight on Type Null, are examples of that. But yeah, you kind of try and use at least some of these items up here. They're just the strongest currently in the meta. But if you have followed these general principles, then you'll probably have like a decently solid team, and then you just go onto the ladder and you test, okay, does this actually match up to these principles? If not, how can I change my team? And that's it. A not very quick guide on how to team build or at least not how to team build, but more like general guidelines for team building in Sword and Shield.